everybody. Welcome to the Otherz podcast. I am your host, Steve Penny. We've been away for a few weeks, more than a few weeks, I think, mainly because of one person. I put all the blame on him. He's yet again hustling his way around Europe, but he's back this time. Rafa, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very good. So you've been on your travels again, as I say, all around Europe with your artwork.
Yes, man. I've been some sneaker events around Europe. We've been to Germany, Holland, Belgium, and back home, man. And it's been a while. It was, I got really tired, but it was worth it, man. It was pretty cool. Like, I met a lot of people, a lot of awesome people on this journey, and hopefully I will do it again next month. Sorry, and next
Next
year.
week. Uh-oh.
No, next week, no, man. Like, I can't handle like
Too much.
yeah, too much, man. I don't have the same body as I did like 10 years ago. I can't handle it anymore, unfortunately.
Any highlights from the trip, from any of the events?
Oh, good question, man. Oh, I don't. I probably said that last time that we talked about. I don't know if I did, but I'm starting to realize again that the yellow N.E.R.D trucker head is like lucky charm for me. Like because because I'm starting to notice, like especially here in Europe, because you have to remember, like N.E.R.D was never big in Brazil, so I never had the notion of how much of an icon that the N.E.R.D had was. I mean, I knew, but I knew on the internet, so I didn't know in real life. And I got some clients, man, because of the head. Like I met a guy, and he was like pointing to the head, was saying, "Oh, cool head, man." And we started to talk about N.E.R.D and all the stuff. And he asked me like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm with a table in here in the event, selling some posters." And he was like, "Oh, let's check it out." And he bought a bunch of posters, like big ones, little ones, and we starting to, and now we are starting to talk like he wants to be my distribute distrib what is the word? Like,
Distributor, I think. Yeah.
yeah, distributor of my posters in Holland, man. So I was like, oh
Wow.
shit, yeah, that was awesome. And it started because we started to talk about NERD, and also the same thing happening, not the same thing, but I started to talk with some guy because of the head in Berlin. Like I was in the event, and he was like, oh man, cool head. And started to talk, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm also a big fan." I even asking like, "Oh, you ever been to the forums on Pharrell, Star Trek music forums?" And no, and he was like, "No, no, no, I was not that huge of a fan." But yeah, man, so it was pretty cool. And he also like we exchanged number. He was like, "Oh, I have a store, so maybe in the future, I'm gonna ask you for some posters." I was like, man, so I think next year, like I'm going to carry this head for all my travels, man, just to see where it's going to get me.
I need to start wearing one of mine, I think.
Yeah, man, do it.
I've got two of the OG ones and then a couple of more recent ones. So yeah, I need to dig them out and start wearing them.
Yeah, man.
See if they spark up any conversation with anyone. Although saying that, probably around Finland, probably not. So maybe I'll wear them. I might go away at New Year, so maybe I'll take one with me.
Yeah, man, you'll be surprised, I think. Yeah, because especially here in Europe, every time that I came out with the head, like always someone, like always pick someone like looking at it, and sometimes trying to smile, trying to nod a little bit. Just I don't know
Like
because I
like
think it's
Justin
just
Timberlake, you know.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think especially when it's not Justin Timberlake, but it's one of us in the street, like, I think it's such a. I think we in your defense, we feel like we are so less of us, like so a little. It's not that huge number of fans. So I think when we see fans on the street, we always like, oh man, I have to be this guy's or this woman's friend, you know, because it's just a few of us out there.
I hope when you're meeting these people, you are informing them that you do co-host a podcast that talks about such things. And I did see
Yeah.
actually, 'cause I did tell you to do that while you were away, and you were like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." But I did notice a few people actually followed the podcast while you were away, so I thought, he's out there doing okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, with this guy from Holland, we were talking about it, and I was like, oh, actually, like I'm in this podcast. I talk with my friend. We talk about N.E.R.D, Neptunes, Pharrell, all this stuff, and he was like, oh no, I'm going to check it out. So he probably like
Or was that his actual
follow.
voice? Oh no, I'm
Maybe.
going to check it out.
This is the only voice that I do for everybody else except me. Like that is not me. It's the only voice that I know.
Maybe that's something to work on, perhaps.
Yeah.
Speaking of the podcast, I had this first in my notes because I not keep getting, but I've had it regularly over the years about the best place to listen to the podcast and where we post stuff and where's the website and things like that. Now, obviously, if you're hearing this, you have found the podcast in some shape or form, whether that be via a podcast player, Spotify, YouTube, whatever it might be. But I just kind of wanted to mention a few different ways that you can actually listen to the podcast because you may not realize we are available in lots of different places. And then also talk about kind of the website and where we are online because I know we always briefly mention it at the end of the show. But let's be honest, I don't think everyone listens to the whole episode and especially not the outro every time where we're giving out our Instagram handles and stuff like that. So just to kind of say that we are available pretty much on every platform out there. So, like I say, YouTube, we push an audio version to there. We may in the future dabble with doing video versions if I can be bothered to do all the editing and everything that comes with it. But you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. And then pretty much every other kind of podcast platform out there, effectively. What I would suggest is if you want to listen in kind of podcast formats, then perhaps go and get a slightly better podcast player than the Apple Podcast app, which I'm not a big fan of. A lot of people use it because it comes as default on their iPhones and stuff, but it's not a great app. So if you're listening to podcasts, I sort of recommend you go out there and try some different ones. You may have to pay for kind of additional features because they're indie apps, but you'll get a better experience than you would on Apple Podcasts and places like that. So my recommendations, if you're on an iPhone or an iPad or even on a Mac, is Castro. That's the my podcast app of choice. There's also Overcast, which I've been a big fan of for a lot of years, but recently had a big rebuild and redesign, which I'm not a big fan of. So I moved away from that. And then also on iOS, Pocket Casts is one of the bigger apps out there. So I recommend kind of using one of those three. And again, like I say, if you don't want a dedicated podcast app, you can just use the Apple one, or you can just go to Spotify or wherever else you get your other platforms from. You can also stream and download the episodes from the website. So that's the others.net. There is a podcast section there where all the episodes are posted with all the show notes, and that will allow you to either download the file or you can just play it in the browser and have it in the background while you're doing work or whatever you do. And then also on the website, it's probably worth mentioning I've been sort of updating it over the last sort of few months to include additional bits and pieces. So there's also the merch store on there, which is kind of fully integrated into the website. There's a section about other people in our community to kind of, follow that you might find interesting on sort of various social platforms. So people that are involved in the music we talk about, but also people that are involved in BBC ICECREAM, other collectors, other artists, other kind of collaborators, people that you may have heard on the podcast. And then also, I've recently updated the About page on the website as well. And on there, you can find basically all of our social links. So I've done away with the link tree page that I previously had, and I think we probably mentioned on the podcast previously. Everything is now on our own website. You can find everything there. And if you go to any of the social platforms, you'll find us. You know, I'm Steve R. Penny or Steve Penny on most of them. Rafa has his various aliases that he uses, but you can normally find him on most of the platforms.
True.
I would just say that I don't know, I can't speak for Rafa, but for myself personally and for the podcast, nothing is going on Twitter. Those accounts have actually been deleted, and I would not touch that platform with a shitty barge pole. So nothing will go to Twitter.
Yeah, man.
Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all these other places you can find us. There's also a subreddit. There's a couple of Discord servers. There's a bunch of places. Whatever kind of platform you use, apart from Twitter or X or whatever the fuck idiots are calling it these days, you can find us.
Yeah, man.
So just to get that out there we go. That's taken up way too much time. So let's actually get into talking about some music and some videos.
Let's do it, man.
I was quite surprised I hadn't previously picked this song because this song is an absolute classic from 2002. But upon researching it, sort of over the last, well, actually, I did some last week, so we were going to record last week, but somebody was a bit poorly, weren't they? Yes. I kind of like through that process, I kind of realized, I think partly why I haven't sort of picked this one previously. I think it's because there's not really much more I can say that hasn't already been said about this track.
Yeah, true.
It is absolutely iconic, and not just any like Neptunes or Pharrell fan or N.E.R.D fan knows this track. Like any hip hop fan knows this track. Anyone who's just a big music fan knows this track. It has appeared everywhere. Everyone has heard it. So I don't know kind of, what we're going to kind of dig into today really, and what we can say, like I say, that hasn't been said already. But today we are going to talk about 2002's Grindin by the Clipse. I was waiting for a sound of some kind. I didn't know which one it was going to be.
Yeah. Like when you said it, I was thinking about the other one, but I went with this one and didn't come out great, man.
It
I
was all
gotta
right. It
admit,
was all right.
I gotta admit, it wasn't one of my best moments.
I'll see if I can tweak it in the edit, make it sound a bit better.
Please, man. Yeah, man. When you said it, like, oh, let's do grind. I'm like, what? Like, how you haven't done it before? Because, like you said, man, it's a classic.
I had to check, and then I had to double check the website as well.
Mm,
Because I was like, I don't think I've done it. So I looked, I was like, I might have missed it somewhere. It might be in there because we've done what episodes? This is the 60th episode.
yeah,
God damn. So yeah, I had to recheck it, but I'm pretty sure we haven't done this one previously.
yeah, man. And I agree with you. I think everything that has to be said about this track was like someone in this world already said it on record and off record. And but I think like it's one of those tracks that has a lot to say. Like I think it's one of the tracks that like we can talk like I don't know days and days about it.
I just think like as a debut single, and obviously we know that like previously there was exclusive audio footage that the Clipse recorded but never got properly released. So this is technically like a debut single.
Hmm.
Like, has there ever been a harder debut single than Grindin? And something that was like something that's so different as well. Because this is 2002, so this is like in terms of hip hop, this is where we're getting really big, full feature sonic tracks from people that are just full of all sorts of sounds and layers and samples and whatnot. And this is just so stripped back, so basic, minimal,
Yeah, man.
just completely different to what else was going on.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, when I first heard it grinding, I think it was a year later. At that time, like I started to study everything that was about the Neptunes. And I remember like in the early 2000s, like 2000s, 2001 to 2002, a lot of other producers were starting to mimic the Neptune sounds in some way. And I think like, and I'm just imagining this, like I really don't know, but I think like when Grindin hit the I don't know the radio and starting to make a noise, I think it got everybody by surprise because the fans, the other producers that was trying to bite the Neptune signs because it's even different from what the Neptunes were doing before. Because the I and correct me if I'm wrong, but I cannot think in another track that was harder than Grinding besides Super Tug. I think Super Tug was the hardest one, and then Grinding was like 3 or 4 years after. So I think it took everybody by surprise. Like, what the fuck is this, man? Even for the Neptunes, this is insane. And like you said, it's so minimal, but it's so different. It's one of those things that it feels like you take, I don't know, I think it's 8 or 9 elements on the instrumental, and you put it together in some way that is, and it came out so perfectly and so different and so raw. Man, so cool, man.
Yes, it's definitely up there as an all-time great for sure. Before we forget, let's go through a few kind of quick numbers and stuff. So, as I mentioned, released in 2002 on the 14th of May, and it was their lead single from the album Lord Willin'. It actually peaked at number 30 in the charts, but not until August 2002. So, it really became like a summer song. I think, especially during those, because people always refer back to it as like the track where like every kid was like banging out the beat, in the lunchroom on the table and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think during those kind of summer holidays, having all that kind of radio play and everything really kind of helped propel it up the charts. So yeah, it hit number 30 in August. The video directed by, well, listed as Bucky Chrome. That's actually an alias for Diane Martell, who we've talked about a million times, I think, on this podcast. A long-time collaborator with Star Trek artists and Pharrell. And then what did surprise me slightly, only 25 million views on YouTube. I thought it would be a lot higher than that. I imagine in terms of like Spotify plays and streams, it's probably right up there. It's probably got a lot, but quite surprised it didn't have as many YouTube views as I thought it would.
Yeah, true. But if you think about it, like when YouTube became like a huge thing in 2005, 2006.
Probably just after that, yeah.
Yeah, but I never check it out. But maybe the Mr. Michu has probably has more views than Grinding, just because it came out like on the same era that YouTube was a huge thing. I don't know.
You're going to make me go and look it up now, aren't you? I want to see when Grinding was actually uploaded to YouTube. So let me see if I can find that. It was uploaded 11 years ago, so quite a while after it came out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also like you have to remember, like I remember when Grinding, like seeing Grinding on YouTube in a bunch of different accounts, like fan accounts, the maybe the record label account.
Yeah, the kind of official video is on the Clipse Vivo account. Vivo we've talked about quite a lot on previous episodes.
Yeah,
Obviously, the Clips have kept their one. It seems to be defunct now. There's no avatar or anything or image that they use, but they just have all of these kind of videos just sitting around there.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the video itself, perhaps it doesn't have that many views just because there's not an awful lot going on in the video, really.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I sort of was watching it back a few times today, and I think the video is somewhat like the track or the song itself. Is that in that it's kind of quite stripped back. There aren't a lot of elements to it. It's not overly complicated. You've got various basic locations around Norfolk in Virginia. So there's one in downtown. There's one in kind of a local housing project. There's some other kind of street scenes, but nothing that kind of they would have to pay a lot of money for to kind of secure that location. Maybe the downtown area, because I think they block off a street or something for that. There's no effects or anything in the video. It's just, them rapping, and that's it basically.
Yeah, true. I think the video was more important when it came out because you can see the faces behind the song, like especially the clips that they were not they were not famous at that point. So I think it was important for that, and also was important for I don't know, like people from VA or people from outside, even outside of VA, seeing like, oh shit, there's some cool guys doing some raps, like street rap on VA. Like look at them, and they are on Virginia doing that. So I think it was like for the community just to see that also it was pretty important, and maybe are just then that I don't know that go back to the video when you're trying to I don't know hear the music. But for us, it's just like it's just the sounds nowadays. Like I never think about like oh let's see like the grinding video because it has that part that is super cool. No,
Yeah.
we, we know everything that we had to know about that video. Like we already seen a bunch of times.
And touching on that point as well, I think good for Pharrell as well around that time.
Oh, true,
Obviously, he was very well known, but he has some iconic sort of scenes in that video
true.
where he's doing the hook and the sound effects and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Even to the point where we've seen it recreated in the Piece by Piece movie as well, which we'll talk a bit more about later.
yeah, true. Because I remember when I saw, and I'm almost sure that the first time that I heard grinding was through the video, and I think grinding has an important part on me being a Pharrell or the Neptunes fan or a Neptunes fan because I remember like of course like I knew Pharrell through Justin Timberlake and Khalees and even earlier like from NSYNC. And when I saw that video and it was so different and it was so hard and the video also like they are in the hood like Pharrell was like low key with a tracksuit gray when the in the N.E.R.D hat and I was like oh shit Pharrell also can do this like I knew he can do this but it was so I don't know it was so huge like they it was so impactful for me like, oh so I think after that I was start like oh so I'm going to start to download everything that Pharrell has the Pharrell name on it and I remember like going on, I don't even remember the platforms that I was illegally downloading music, but I remember like putting Pharrell and Neptunes on the search bar and downloading everything that I could. And and I'm pretty sure it was after hearing grinding.
Led you down this path.
Yeah, yeah.
And here we are more than 20 years later.
Yeah, man. Crazy.
Yeah, I think in the video we've got quite a few sort of cameos in there, which I quite liked. Again, a hat tip to Virginia and the area and people around them. So we obviously see quite a bit of family in the video, but we also see Teddy Riley, who obviously helped bring the Neptunes through and was based in Virginia. We see Nori. Obviously, Nori was kind of running with them, I think, at that time, and obviously off the back of Super Thug and other tracks that they were working on. And then we get quite a mean looking Chad lurking in the background in quite a few shots, which I liked. I like to see Chad in a video.
Yeah,
I
man.
wish we would have seen more of Chad back in those days. He did seem to turn up for quite a few videos, but he's just always sort of in the background somewhere generally.
Yeah, man. True. And I always think about, I think the first question that I want to do to Chad, like to ask Chad, is always the same. Like every time that I think about when I met Chad, what is going to be the first question? And I always pop up in my head. The question is like, do you regret not showing up on more videos? Because every time Chad is in front of the camera, he's doing some crazy stuff, and he's legendary.
Yeah, yeah. I get the feeling that he's probably quite happy with the way that those videos went, where he kind of keeps out of it.
Yeah,
I think,
probably.
yeah, he can do. He can have his little pop up here and there, a couple of seconds here and there, but I think that's probably enough for him. I don't think he'd want any more attention than that. I think he likes to keep it kind of quite low key.
Yeah, true. And I think that's why it makes more. it makes it more special, you know. Those little Chad cameos, like it's always like, oh my God, Chad is on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was watching it back today a few times, and again, I was regularly sort of pausing, going, "Oh, is that Chad over there? Is that Chad over there?" And just seeing kind of where he pops up and stuff.
Yeah, true.
Always nice to see him.
Yeah, shout out to Chad, man.
Yeah, definitely. Also, one other cameo which ties into a line in the song "Legend in Two Games," like I'm Pee Wee Kirkland, and there is Pee Wee Kirkland stood there next to them, a
Yeah,
famous Virginia street baller, I guess you'd call it,
yeah.
and drug dealer.
Also,
So yeah, a legend in both of those games.
yeah, a side hustle.
I think a bit more than a side hustle, but yeah.
I mean, what is the side hustle actually? Like the street balling or the drug dealing? We don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's probably pretty 50-50 at this point, or at that point, as
Yeah,
it were.
yeah,
So yeah, we get that little line. What else have we got in here? One line I really liked, which I've always really liked. Then I was looking it up today as well, and I saw a piece where Pusha actually talks about it as well and calls it out. And that's Malice's line. My grind's about family, never been about fame. Them days I wasn't able, there was always Kane.
yeah, man.
Such good wordplay. And I think this song is underrated in terms of wordplay because people listen to that kind of stripped back beat and they just think of it as a rap song. They think of the drug talk and stuff like that. But there's such good wordplay in this song as well. There's some really good lines sort of throughout it. But that was one that I really like. And personally, to me, I got to say that I reckon that's one of the best all time lines.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I kind of agree. And also because it's emotional, right? Like because I always remember when they talk about how it took like 9 months or 8, 9 months to the song to be built because it wasn't a big thing when they started to promote. and and I always think about how, of course, the streets was the first ones and the drug dealers was the first one that was so hooked about the song because it's emotional also. Of course, like when you see like I always think about like how Pusha started the song, like from ghetto to ghetto, and I think a lot of people when you start a song like that, you know what you're going to hear. So I think a lot of people was like, oh man, this is a criminal song, so I'm not gonna listen to this shit. This I don't know. And for those guys, from people from the street or from people from the ghetto, from people that was drug dealing, it was emotional for them. Oh man, those guys are making like poetry for people
It's
like me.
actual representation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's crazy how so hard the song is. The lyrics are also hard. It's pretty like direct, but also has all this emotion and poetry behind it, man.
And just touching on what you said there again, I saw, and I've heard it previously a few times, I think in Pusher interviews, but he was saying, before the track came out and just after it came out, before it really got mainstream, their way of pushing the track was to just do hundreds of shows to every drug dealer in the US for
Yeah, man.
$5,000 a time and just keep churning over and taking in those $5,000 every time. Collect the money, go to the next city, collect the money, go to the next city, and keep pushing it with all those people, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And that's how it really sort of, bubbled up and how it became that sort of big hit when it did come out.
Yeah, and I also heard Pusha talking about how some of the drug dealers that hired them to perform, they were like, "Oh, perform it again, perform it again." So he was like performing the same song for 9 times in a row. But, oh man, so that's why I think like, and I don't think like I think it was like pretty emotional for them, like representation as it is.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I had in my notes, we've kind of skipped over it, but I just want to go back to it quickly, is just that as part of the video, I really liked as we mentioned earlier, the kind of stripped back nature of it. And not only does the song represent a certain type of person, a certain sort of background and environment, but the video does as well. It's like we say, there's no big effects. It's kind of shot locally, shot with local people. But the one sort of shot I really did like is there's a part near the start where you've got, I think, two or maybe three black Mercedes S classes kind of coming down the road. And then it cuts back to Pusha, Mal, and I think Pharrell is next to them. And they're outside like a sort of project building. And there's just like a kid's or like a baby's pram just behind them, which, if you commissioned a music video now with even whatever budget they spent, you would not leave a baby's pram in the background. Somebody would say, can you fucking move that, please? Get all that stuff out of the way. And, we just want to focus on the artists and all that sort of stuff. But to kind of, I hate the term like, keep it real. I'm putting that in air quotes. But to kind of keep it as authentic as possible, they've just said, no, we'll shoot it as it is. We'll shoot it and give a real representation of the area that we're in. So you have that, and also like the sort of juxtaposition of going from two S-Class Benzes to a project building with a kid's kind of pram outside. I think that's just an interesting shot and decision to make in the editing process. But I really like that. Again, it shows that sort of authenticity and that kind of rawness to it. And it's just like, let's bang out a video. Let's let the music do the talking. We'll make an okay video for it, which will feature everyone we want to feature. But let's just represent who we kind of really are. So I really like that about the video.
Yeah, true. And I also heard Pusha talking about how when he's walking around Virginia in the on the neighborhood that he grew up, sometimes like he's like some people like some guys or some woman like stop him by like, oh, I was in that I was in the grinding video at that time. So they don't say that they know by head like exactly time that they appear. So it must be like what that does to the community, you know? Like I was saying, I think that video was huge for Virginia, huge because it was showing it as it is. And like you say, like they were not trying to block anybody, like just if you're down, like if you are around, like come by, appear on the video, we don't care, like we just want to show as it is. It's pretty cool, man.
A little bit of trivia that we've heard over the years, and that was also kind of made an appearance in the Piece by Piece movie, is that this beat, had Pusha not turned up at the studio, Pharrell was telling him that this beat was going to go to Jay-Z. Like Jay-Z on this beat, what would that have been like?
Yeah, man. You will probably be insane also. I'm pretty sure, man.
I think there's a lot of stuff in the past, a lot of kind of Pharrell's, or I should say Pharrell's, the Neptune's best work, where it's like, it's going to go to the Clipse or it's going to go to Jay, one or the other. So whoever gets there first gets it, basically.
Yeah. Oh, and I think you 100% right because I remember Pusha talking about when they were doing Hell Had No Fury, asked Pharrell like, I want to see every beat that is on Jay-Z fold. And it is what all the beats from Hell Had No Fury.
Yeah, most of that album, I think, was
Yeah.
kind of intending to potentially go to Jay, but the Clipse kind of had their way and pulled in a favor
Yeah.
and got them. But I always kind of think back and think it would be really interesting to, firstly, to know if Jay had heard the beat and just and what it might have turned out to be like had he actually got on it.
Yeah, true.
And what would have been good as well. I know I haven't got it in the notes, but there's a couple of official remixes of the track. There's one with some of the Cash Money guys, and then there's the Selector remix as well.
Yeah.
A Jay-Z remix that would have been good.
Yeah,
Because
man.
again, Jay comes from that background. He's talked about those topics. He does that so well.
True.
And he especially would have done 20 years ago. I think the Black album had just come out the year before. Like, a Jay feature on a remix would have been good.
Yeah, true, man. It would be awesome.
We can but dream, though.
True. And it's kind of crazy how little those guys work together, right? Because I think I think Jay-Z Pusha have what, like one track together, and it's not even like a
There's been a few.
feature.
No, I think there's been a few. I think Neck and Wrist. That's one.
Yeah,
Drug Dealers Anonymous.
yeah. It maybe in the mixtapes era, and the clips were putting all those mixtapes, maybe.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, not as many as I thought there would be.
Yeah,
And I think, like we spoke about last month, we've hopefully got this Clipse album coming. Again, we'll talk about more of that later. But
yeah,
I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed that the one feature they were waiting on was a J verse. But we will see.
yeah,
And just some other trivia that I noticed today when looking up the track that I just wanted to mention. I actually went back and looked at a lot of the old reviews, like that originally came out in 2002. And I looked at a lot of reviews when there were kind of 20 years retrospective looks at it and stuff like that. And like a lot of the reviews from 2002, they weren't that great for this single. There were a lot of like 3 out of 5s, 3.5 out of 5.
damn,
Like, oh yeah, strong debut single, blah blah blah. But then you look at all the retrospectives from 20 years later, and people doing these pieces about 20 years of Lord Willin, 20 years of grinding, and obviously everyone calls it a masterpiece and one of the best like
yeah,
debut singles, debut albums of any kind of rap group. But kind of touching on that, I did notice as well, Rolling Stone ranked grinding as its 281st best song of all time. Now you might go 281, wow, there's 280 songs above them, but you think of all the songs in history that have been made,
yeah, yeah,
281
yeah.
isn't bad, to be fair.
True, true.
They also gave it 84th best song of the 2000s. So again, from 2000 up till 2010, all the songs released, 84. It's not bad.
Yeah, true.
Pitchfork ranked it 27th in their top 500 tracks of the 2000s. So they thought a little bit more of it than Rolling Stone. It's funny, yeah, how it didn't kind of get all of the critical acclaim it probably deserved at the time, probably because it was so new and so different and not what people were used to hearing. But yeah, since time has passed and people have gone back and looked at it, it now ranks extremely highly.
Yeah, true. And I always think about how it might be for them at that time, how it felt for them because I heard Pusha and Malice talking about how they were so confident about the rhymes, the music, and how frustrating was to them, having all this good material, good music, good songs, good raps, and people were like, "Oh no, I'm not interested," or it took like 9 months to grinding to build and to be a hit. So how like at the time, like it must be real frustrating, like knowing that you have all this good stuff, but people people are not even ready for it. Like you said, like people were rating like 3 out of 5. Like, are you insane? It's so much better than that.
Yeah, I think what bothers me even more is the fact that when the last time then came out, I think it's the second single and did better in the charts than Grinding, and that's where we get Pusha talking about his not hatred for the song, but his his dislike for it at times, and then spending 20 years refusing to perform it
Yeah, yeah,
because
true.
he just felt that was just just wasn't right.
True. Oh, but like I said, they performed that song on Primavera Sounds. I was super surprised. Like, what the hell? But maybe he hates. Oh, he was talking about how he hates. What is the song with Kelly? No, not Kelly. Counseling? No, no. It's Counseling? It's one song on the Till the Casket Drops. He always said that he hates that song because Pharrell was pushing that song, saying like, "Oh, it's
Oh,
going to
with
be a radio
Kerry
hit."
Hilson.
Carrie Hilson, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. All Eyes on Me. That's the one. Yeah.
All Eyes on Me, yeah, yeah, yeah. And man, that beat is awesome, but I understand Pusha. Like it's not them at all.
Yeah, it's one of those. I actually don't mind it as a track, to be fair, but I have to say I prefer the non-album version where it's actually got Pharrell on the hook
Oh yeah, true.
instead of Kerry Hilson. I think that sounds a bit not that anything against Kerry Hilson, not that she did a bad job or anything. I just prefer the Pharrell version of it.
Yeah, true. And I think also Counseling he has like a version with Pharrell also because a lot of those songs like they were with Pharrell on the hook and they replaced with a I don't know with a female singer.
Yeah, I think he for most songs he tends to kind of demo them and record what he thinks they should sound like. And some of them are done very roughly, and some of them he will actually do them properly. Maybe because they were thinking, yeah, should we release it with Pharrell on the track or do another version with somebody else? And somebody decided we'll take the other version. Because I think there can also be Pharrell overkill to a certain extent if he appears on every single track throughout the album.
Yeah,
Sometimes
true.
it's better to get some different voices on there as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, just to add something, we were talking about Jay-Z, right? And I remember when I was like digging the meaning of the lyrics of Otis, the song with Kanye and Jay-Z, and that's that part that he said, Jay is Jay is feeling, yeah, he's feeling. What more can I say? And I remember like looking the meaning of the lyrics on Genius, and they and that particular part got me to a song that is called Top Billing. I don't even remember. I think it was a duo or a rap group or something. It's a song from the 80s. I think it's audio something. The name of the song is Top Billing, and basically the part that the Jay-Z sample is like I think he said like Mick is chilling, another guy is chilling, what more can I say, top billing. And the beat of this song, then the first time that I heard that song, it makes me think about grinding because it's also like a pretty raw beat, pretty hard also, and it made me think like, oh, do the people from the 80s when they first heard top billing, do they like felt the same way as we do, as we did when we first heard like grinding? Because it's super raw, the song, and it's super cool also. But I mean, it has the it's aged like a 80s song. Like you hear it pretty clear that it's one of the song that is in the beginning of the hip hop, and it's not even like similar. The beat is not even similar, but I think it has that feeling, like, and I always think about how maybe the Neptunes like was inspired by that song when they were doing grinding.
And that brilliantly leads back to the one note that I had that I completely forgot to mention, which is grinding in the beat always reminds me of the theme from the Terminator.
Oh, I heard that, man, on your notes.
So just that drum, and obviously it's a different BPM, it's a different drum, but that da-dum, da-da, 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 just like it's used in the Terminator theme. And I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go and listen to it and sort of have a flick through of it on YouTube. But yeah, it reminds me of that for some reason.
Yeah, true. No, I saw it on your notes and I click on it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I don't know if it makes sense, but it just reminds me of it. Yeah,
And no, it makes it in and the beat from the song from the Terminator, like the beat is pretty dope, man.
classic movies.
Sure.
All right, should we move on to some news? There's a lot of news because we have been off for a while. So
Yeah, man. Let's move on.
yeah, let's move on. Now, I did not plan this on purpose at all. It was just sheer coincidence we picked this song, but it also ties into the first news item of the week, and that is Pusha T now has his own coffee company. He's now dealing pure caffeine with his company, Grindin. I am amazed it took over 20 years for them to make a coffee company called Grinding.
Yeah, man. Insane.
Coffee's been been big for a while. So yeah, amazed it took this long.
Yeah, true. And one of the guys from the forum, Mavis, shout out to Mavis, Aaron, as we also know him, he said that one of one girl that used to be on the forum, on the Star Trek forum, or on the Pharrell forum back in the day, she also has a coffee shop and it's called Grinding.
I'm sure plenty of people have had that idea over the years.
Oh yeah, of course, man. It's pretty on the nose.
Yeah, again, no pun intended. I just hope that Pusha and his team don't come after anybody else that beat them to the name Grinding for their
Yeah,
coffee shop.
exactly.
But yes, if you are a fan of coffee and you are a fan of Pusha T, there will be a link in the show notes. I don't know where you can buy this. I've seen he's had some pop ups at festivals and and stuff like that. I assume they're going to start selling it more widely soon. So yeah, you can check that out. Also, things being launched or relaunched. I just noticed the last couple of weeks, Chad has kind of relaunched his Galaxy Gear business, which he opened quite a few years back and ran for a while. Then it stopped. I assume, and I'm guessing, that's because the Neptunes then started doing more stuff together again. But now he's back to doing some stuff with Galaxy Gear. It's a very niche thing. I guess if you're in the Virginia area and you need or want high-end musical instruments, then you can reach out to Galaxy Gear and they will rent you some basically. And you may get Chad to turn up in his big white van to deliver them to you. I don't know if he does or not, but it'll be a nice bonus.
But that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a
Oh shit.
audio rental business. Yeah.
Oh, okay, man. I didn't pay attention enough because I just thought it was like Chad doing some music stuff. I don't know. Because wasn't that the name of when he was like DJing with some other guy? Remember?
Yeah, I know he was doing. I don't think he used that name. No, Galaxy Gear, like this business has been around for a while, so you've probably just seen it previously when he was promoting it or talking about it somewhere.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. Okay, get it.
But like I say, yeah, if you want some, obviously he has a house full of expensive music equipment and production equipment. So if you're not using all of it, why not rent it out to people?
Yeah, true. I'm just got excited because I leave a comment on his post about Galaxy Gear and I say, "Oh, I'm just waiting for the jazz album," and he liked it. And I'm like, "Man, just do it, man. Please."
I've got to say, but in kind of typical Chad fashion, yes, the little kind of Instagram videos and skits that he's been doing to promote it are wacky and a bit out there, and but they're funny. They're
Yeah.
typical kind of Chad.
Yeah, exactly. Like his own brand. His own brand, Chad Hugo.
Yes, most definitely. And it's not in the notes, but also probably worth mentioning just for the recognition of what it is. Like he was at the White House a number of weeks ago
Oh yeah, true. Hmm.
playing, I think, for the president. I don't know if the president was there. It was, I'm trying to think what the event was. I think it was like Filipino Americans, some kind of like celebration day or something. Apologies, I haven't got it exactly correct. I just can't remember. But yeah, he was invited there as a special guest and played. And again, while he was in Washington D.C., was posting some videos on Instagram of him being his normal, slightly wacky self.
Yeah, true. It's always fun to see, man. It's always cool because I always think about how Chad is just having fun.
Yeah, we need to see more of Chad. We really do. And I know he's
Yeah.
not particularly interested in doing that stuff. I get the feeling, even with the Galaxy Gear videos that he's made, he's probably been coerced into it to kind of help promote things. I don't think
True.
those things were his kind of idea to go out there and do, but it's good to see him at least.
Yeah, true. Yes, Chet seems like the guy that has to be pushed to do a lot of things.
If it involves, yeah, him being in the public and his face and voice being on things, for sure.
You have to just hope that his wife like push him and record everything because we need the content.
Yeah, more Chad content for sure. We're still hoping for more Clipse content. We're still waiting for the album, like we mentioned. We are still waiting for the tour.
True,
But
man.
in the last few weeks, Clipse have signed a new record deal with Def Jam,
Yes,
which is
man.
good because it means that hopefully now that will push the album through. But what I find a bit strange is that they've obviously gone and recorded a whole album, quite a high budget, obviously, Pharrell producing all of it,
Hmm.
without having a label deal, and talked about obviously a tour and the album release, and they did merch with Carhartt with all with the supposed locations of the tour, but all without a record deal in place. I assumed they were doing the album because there was a record deal behind them pushing them to do it, but it seems not. It seems they've done it off their own back, and now there's a record deal. While it's now got a label behind it, I don't know if that now means they go into Def Jam and go, here's the album we recorded, here's the tour that we want to do. And Def Jam go, oh, actually, we don't like that, or we want to change it, or we want to tweak things, and we need to do a whole kind of marketing plan. And, could it delay things even further, perhaps?
True, man. Yeah, it was super strange. When I saw it, like now? Like now you got signing? Like, what the hell?
Yeah. kind of out of the blue. But like I say, hopefully, let's look on the positive side. Hopefully, with the label behind them, they can get things moving now and get the album out.
Yeah, hopefully.
BBC EU, a few bits of news here, and also one that isn't in the show notes because it only happened today. But firstly, a YouTube video that I really enjoyed. So Jimmy Garecki and Nino Scalia talking about how they kind of built Team Ice Cream, or how kind of Nino built Team Ice Cream back in the day when Ice Cream was kind of first founded. And obviously Jimmy, friend of the podcast, talking about his involvement and how he met Nino and how it all kind of came together with the other guys on the skate team as well. If you're kind of interested in the Ice Cream backstory or just skating, skateboarding in general and stuff, it's a good video to go and watch. Filmed by Ross and also Joseph as well, who's doing freelance stuff with BBC EU. Nicely recorded. Audio is a bit funny on it. Nino can chat for days, it seems. So I'm hoping there's a kind of part 2 that will come from this with more kind of tales and stories. But a really interesting watch and some good anecdotes in there. So yeah, like I said, if you're interested in the history of BBC Ice Cream and interested in the kind of the skating side of it and how it all kind of came to be and things that happened, then go and check out that video. I think it's about an hour long, maybe, but worth a watch.
Yeah, true. I haven't seen like the entire thing, but it kind of surprised me how much of this behind the story of BBC Ice Cream we don't know, because I think since Pharrell was always the face of the brands, we were always like paying attention to what Pharrell was doing with the brand. And for me, it was like I never pay a lot of attention to the ice cream skate team or whatever was going on behind the scenes. So it was pretty interesting to see like, oh, there's a lot of history behind this and a lot of like
Definitely.
cool and interesting history behind this.
And I've got to say, I'm sort of similar. There's a lot of stuff that I wasn't sort of aware of just because when it was all happening, I wasn't and never have been into skateboarding. So that sort of aspect of the brand didn't really interest me. I wasn't watching. Nino talks about how kids would see them skating in a skate park and come up to them and go, "Oh, what are those clothes you're wearing? What are those sneakers you're wearing?" And they would tell them about BBC Ice Cream, and people would get into it that way. Whereas I was kind of the opposite. I was already into BBC Ice Cream from a clothing and a brand perspective, and the skating stuff was off to the side. So I never really paid attention to it and sort of knew.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
obviously knew some stuff about it, but not all of the kind of backstory and stuff. So interesting to hear some of that, definitely. And from the horse's
Yeah.
mouth as well, not like hearing it second or third hand or whatever, like hearing it from Nino himself and from Jimmy himself was really good.
Yeah, I always like to read or to hear like whatever Jimmy has to say about BBC and the ice cream, because I think I am used to when I see people talking about or hear or read people talking about a project or a brand that they were a part of, it's always like not that enthusiastic. They were like, "Oh, I know some stories, like I was a part of it, and it's okay." And Jimmy is not just enthusiastic, but he was a fan. He's still a fan of the brand. Like the way he talks about BBC Ice Cream is super cool, man. It's like we are talking about, like sometimes
Yep.
we talk about, I don't know, like old pieces and I don't know, some seasons that were pretty good. And the way he talks about it, like it's super cool. It's super interesting and super, I don't know, exciting to read or hear.
Yeah, and really good to hear them like 20 years later still talking about it passionately and talking about how it all came about and their sort of love for the brand and stuff like that. So yeah, a really interesting watch. So I recommend people go and check that out. Also, other BBC EU stuff. New BBC Astro items were released a few weeks back. A nice little collection at BBC EU. I did grab a Starfield hoodie. Everyone knows I'm a sucker for the Starfield pattern. So I had to grab one of those.
Nice.
Also, this week, the Black Friday sale has started. So there's a lot of items in that Black Friday sale. So I recommend you check it out. I may or may not have grabbed a couple of bits. I won't say too much more because some of them may be for Christmas presents for people. Yeah, I put in an order today. And then after that order, they released their next ice cream general release. And there were two items I absolutely loved. So I had to make a second order.
Oh man, you had to.
I had to. But they have the OG Cone Man in this collection, and I love that OG Cone Man. So I had to grab a hoodie and a t-shirt. So yes, if you're looking for anything for the upcoming holidays, for Christmas, stuff like that, or just looking for a bargain, check out the sale. There's a section on the website, I think, called Black Friday. And also check out the new collections as well. And just while we're talking about things that we've got recently, shout out to Chariot of Fire on Instagram. I grabbed one OG BBC hat from him from, I want to say, like season 2 or 3. It's the design that they actually use on the carrier bags. So it's got the I don't think I have it in front of me, but it's got the kind of half and half version. There's a white side to it, a stripy half of it, and then the logo in the middle. I got that hat from him, and then he very kindly, because it took him a little while to ship it out. When I opened it, there was a bonus BBC hat in there. So
Nice.
shout out to him for that. Again, if you're a fan of BBC, you're a BBC collector, go and check out his Instagram, Chariot of Fire. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes. He's normally or regularly selling bits and pieces, including a lot of kind of early season bits as well, a lot of OG stuff. So go and check that out. A previous cop that I talked about, the Louis Vuitton Lovers Cologne, that we mentioned, that I debated for weeks and weeks as to whether I would spend a small fortune buying it. And of course I did, because I'm a sucker. I did wear it for the first time the other night when I went out for dinner. My God, it's lovely.
Nice.
It's so nice. I really like it. I've now said, and I may go back and change this, but normally I'll keep 2 colognes in the house. I'll have a basic one that I'll use just for everyday stuff, then a nicer one if I'm going out in the evening or going for dinner. I think now I'm just going to stop that and just buy this one cologne every time.
Oh
It's
yeah.
expensive, yes, but it is so nice. And no lie, it lasted on me for like 3 days.
Oh shit. That's awesome, man.
And
It pays off.
people, I do have a shower every day as well. I go to like my bed now, a week later or whatever, I can still kind of smell it. It's on I guess on a hoodie or something that's in the room near the bed. I can still smell it. It lasts a long time. You don't need to use a lot of it. So the bottle itself will last a long time.
That's cool.
I think this will be my kind of default cologne going forward. I really hope that they don't discontinue it, because it is one of those, it's part of a Pharrell range or a Pharrell season.
Ah, true.
So I've got the fear that it might not be one that kind of they constantly produce and go back to. But I think, yeah, going forward, I'm going to use up I was going to say slightly cheaper ones. The other ones I've got aren't that cheap, but I will use them up, and then I'll just stick with this LV one when I'm venturing outside the house, because it is very nice. I know a few people messaged me about it to ask me kind of what it smelt like and was it worth it. I would say yes, definitely. If you've been contemplating buying it and you don't mind spending €300 on a cologne, then yeah, I'd recommend getting it, because it is very, very nice.
Nice. How about the missus? Like, did she like it?
Yes,
So perfect, man.
I guess that's the most important thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Always.
My opinion's irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah, like no, because every time that I think about like a man cologne or men's perfume, I always think about those outrageous commercials that the guy is like spraying the cologne on his body and the girl's like just going at it, like going at him, and like, oh, maybe that's what is happening with you in
I
down there
wish.
in Helsinki, like all these Finland women like throwing themselves on you.
Unfortunately, it didn't seem to have that effect, but it smelled nice. So
Yet.
yeah, yeah. And then I won't have a girlfriend.
Exactly.
My ass will get dumped. All right, let's move on to some new music. There's a few new bits and pieces from Pharrell that have come out in the last couple of weeks. I've briefly listened to them all, but I can't sort of sit here and give an in-depth review of them. But we've got a track with Earth Gang, You Gotta, which on the one listen I gave it, I thought was all right. I didn't mind.
Yeah, it's cool.
You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce the next one. Look at the show notes. How do I pronounce this guy's name?
Raul.
Oh, it's like Raul. Okay, Raul Alejandra.
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
Pharrell has worked with previously on, was it Airplanes, I think he worked on him with?
yeah, true.
There's a new track with him, Committed. Again, laid back track. It was nice to listen to. Thought it had more of a sort of laid back summer vibe. So slightly surprised it's coming out on an album in November, just before Christmas.
Yeah, I really like this one. Like I was surprised because I haven't got excited about Pharrell music for a bit now, and but this song like I pretty like it. Like it surprised me a little bit, especially because I listen to Raul sometimes. Like he's a cool artist, and all his singing is pretty cool on the song. Also, it got me a little bit by surprise because he usually don't sing that much, especially the way that he's doing. So yeah, it was cool to see like a different thing from Pharrell and from him at on the same track. Cool.
Nice. Yep, you can check that out. There's also a video for it as well. Not much going on in the video. I think it's just a place, it's just something to have on YouTube.
True.
But yeah, you can get it on all your streaming services on YouTube. And then also last Friday, so we're recording this on Tuesday, the 26th of November. Last Friday, there was a Pharrell, Marley Blue, Doodles, McDonald's collaboration that was released called Good Morning. At the time, I'd only heard a snippet of it on Instagram. I have since listened to it once. It sounds very much like the rest of the Doodles stuff that he's been doing the last sort of few months.
True.
It didn't blow my mind, but it's a okay enough track. But as part of that release, it was confirmed that he's been working with Marley Blue, and there are a few other songs that will come on her next album, which is just said to be kind of coming soon at the moment. I think there were 3 or 4 confirmed tracks, and then there might possibly be more. I don't know. We can wait to see what comes from that one.
True. Yeah, and it's great news because I've been listening to her like for the last year, and I was super excited when I saw that they were working together. When I saw that song, I was like, oh, that's it. Like they work together, and that's it. That's the song. But when I saw the news that they have more tracks coming out, so oh, okay, let's see what they come up with it because she's pretty cool, man. She's pretty good.
I'll have to check her out. Yeah, I've heard the name, but I don't know if I've listened to her stuff previously, so I'll have to go back and check out some of that stuff. And yeah, hopefully, like you say, with him kind of doing other album tracks as well, there's potentially some more interesting stuff, not Doodles McDonald's tracks, which are probably never going to set the world alight. Some sneaker news: the Addy Zero Adios Pro Evo 1 Earth, lovely catchy title there.
Jesus.
Yeah, lovely name. By Pharrell is now available. I think we've talked about this previously on maybe 1 or 2 episodes because it kept getting teased or mentioned in places. This is the kind of, professional runner's shoe that if you go to an actual marathon with actual runners, you'll probably see some of them wearing this sneaker that's made for kind of performance athletes. But it is now available. So if you are into your running, you can go and check that out. To me, meh, looks like a performance running shoe, not something I'm going to be interested in.
Yeah, true. I don't even know why they put Pharrell on it because it has nothing like super special about it. I don't know.
I guess the Adidas stuff has been quite slow going recently, the last couple of years, obviously because he's at LV. We have seen him at the Adidas headquarters a few times in the last few years or last couple of years. But yeah, we're not getting a lot of Adidas stuff. We're not getting a lot of human race stuff or anything.
Yeah, true.
Maybe it was just something to kind of keep them ticking over. Maybe his name has to be on X number of items that are released per year, or I don't know what his contract includes. But it may have just been something like, here's a new shoe. We don't really know what to do with it in terms of marketing, or we'd like some input. And Pharrell's team have kind of given some input in terms of maybe some of the design aspects or the marketing around it or whatever. So he gets to slap his name on it.
Yeah.
We've also seen a new colorway of the Nego Nike Air Force 3. So we've previously talked about the 2 original colorways that we saw. There's now another one. It's a Baroque brown. I don't like it.
Yeah. Actually, like on the details, I like a little bit more. But have you seen? I know we're talking about this new one, but have you seen the first one in person?
Yeah.
Man, I like it a lot because when I saw the photos on the internet, on Instagram, whatever, I was like, oh, okay, that's some Nego stuff, like a sneaker with vinyl materials with a lot of colors. But when I saw it in person, it's way better.
I think the version that got publicly released, the kind of lighter color versions, I don't wear white sneakers anymore. I'm not a big fan of them, so there's that. I think the kind of Planet of the Apes inspired colorway we talked about previously, I do really like.
Yeah, true.
That's got a good balance of the browns and the other colors. But then this new one, this Baroque brown, is just too much brown for me.
Oh yeah, true. I wouldn't wear.
But yeah, if those Planet of the Apes ones actually get properly publicly released, I think I'd probably try and grab a pair of those.
Oh yeah,
But
true.
if you are into the darker, more earthy kind of color tones, then this Baroque brown one may be coming soon. Another Pharrell collaboration, this time with Evian Water. He's done some stuff with them previously. I think a few months ago we talked about a tennis collaboration they did with Adidas as well, which was just like, okay, some tennis gear. Now he's designed, well, him via Human Race have designed some water bottles.
Jesus.
So,
I
yeah,
mean,
okay. I think the release of them is the start of December, if my memory serves correct. So, if you would like a Pharrell designed, I'm putting in air quotes, bottle of Evian water, then check out wherever they sell Evian near you.
yeah, man. I mean, it's so pointless, man. Like, why? I'm happy for you, Pharrell. Like, you maybe got some money out of it, but then it's just water and just a bottle of water. So, okay, you make a huge announcement like for it. Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, and I can kind of see the tie-in. Evian being a kind of water company, they talk a lot about sustainability and water quality and
True.
stuff like that. And obviously, human race is very much into that as well. So I can kind of see the tie-in. So I could see a human race Evian thing. But again, it's like not enough people know what human race is, so we need to slap the Pharrell name on it again, as well to really give it some promotion. So yeah, not something I'll be rushing out to buy.
Exactly. And I always think about how when these collaborators like do do this with with a brand like Avian that is putting plastic in the world, tons of plastic in the world, and they're starting to talk, oh, this is a collaboration about, I don't know, the environment. Oh man, so dumb, and the hypocrisy is all over it, you know? So it's just like, why?
Yeah, but these are glass bottles, fancy
No, I know.
bottles.
Yeah, exactly. I know, but like it's going to be exclusive, It's going to be like, I don't know, like 500, 1,000 bottles, I don't know, maybe something like that. While even still pushing a lot of plastic bottles in for the rest of the world. So, oh shit, okay, shut up.
Let's move on from that one. Pharrell has won an award, a fairly big award, GQ's 2024 Designer of the Year
Yeah, man.
for all of his work at Louis Vuitton. And he obviously did a cover story for GQ as well as some other publicity stuff with them. So winning that, I think it's a fairly prestigious award in the fashion industry. A lot of big names have won it in the past. A lot of big names turn out for GQ's various award ceremonies. So I guess this is a good indication he's doing something right at Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, true. The only thing that it got me a little bit curious about it, just like not curious, but it got me like my eyebrows a little bit. Is because Pharrell is not actually a designer, right? Like he's
No, he's
a creative
creative
director.
director. Yeah.
Exactly. And he always Pharrell is always saying, like he always pointed out like, oh, I'm not a designer, I'm a director, a creative director, because he got a lot of, I don't know, like a lot of criticism when Louis Vuitton hired him as a creative director, and people were saying, oh, he's not a designer, and he was like, no, no, actually, I'm not a real designer, like I'm going to be a creative director. That's one thing that I was like, okay, so you being all this time since you got into Louis Vuitton, saying like you are not a designer, you are a creative director, and you accepted this. So okay, but that's the business behind it, and I think, in my opinion, like I think he deserved it. Like his work on Louis Vuitton like got really highlighted for by a lot of, like, I don't know, fashion venues, fashion publications. So that was pretty cool. But have you seen the comments? People were mad.
Everybody's always mad.
Yeah, man. Well, why people are discussing why Pharrell like deserve this or yes or not? Like, it makes no sense, you know. People are mad at talking about no, he didn't deserve it. They decided to name all these older designers that deserve it more. Oh man, shit.
Yeah, but this is the thing with the fashion world. They're naming all these other kind of designers. Most of those designers, yeah, they have a design background, but they're not designers anymore either. They're creative directors. They oversee a
Exactly.
design house. So yeah, while they probably have more technical knowledge, more experience, they may have a little bit more input into the specific details because they have that real life hands-on experience. They're still not actual necessarily designers anymore. I don't know, I'm trying to think of a previous one, Alexander McQueen. You know, he grew up sewing, stitching all his own clothes. Yeah, he had a real design background. He worked at some, great London boutiques and suit makers and design houses and stuff like that. But when he got to head up his own brand, Alexander McQueen, which was obviously part owned by other fashion houses and labels and stuff, and people lent him money to do it. Again, yeah, he's more hands on, but again, he's acting as the creative director. He's not a designer. He has a team of designers that he is leading. So, designer of the year, I think, is just a term that they use because people, the general public, can understand what that means. They understand it's a fashion thing. It's someone leading a fashion house.
Yeah.
But in the real world, we know that's not necessarily a designer per se. It is a creative director type role normally that's doing that.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, anyway, congratulations to Pharrell for that.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that got me the most was like, oh, weren't you guys already criticizing Pharrell or Louis Vuitton like 2, 3 years ago? Like, you never get tired of criticizing a guy for the same thing all over and over again? Like, move on, people.
I have no time for stuff like that nowadays. It's just like if you don't like it, don't follow the account, don't engage with the posts, mute it, unfollow it. Just get on with your life. It's fine. You don't have to like everything. Not everything is for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, let's move on before I start ranting about stuff. As part of the GQ award, like I say, Pharrell did a kind of cover shoot. He also did a version of GQ's Actually Me, which they regularly do with celebrities that are promoting something, a movie or whatever. Obviously, Pharrell's promoting everything at the moment. So he appeared on Actually Me, and this is where they kind of go on all the social platforms, create a new account, and he answers people's comments and questions and stuff. One thing that's always confused me about that, I don't know why they don't just log into his actual Pharrell account. They always create new accounts for the people saying, it's actually Pharrell Williams. It's like, just use his Pharrell, like, I don't know. Anyway, that's weird.
Yeah,
But the video itself was quite good, I thought. Again, like we've talked about in the past, these kinds of things can go one of two ways with Pharrell, depending on what kind of mood he's in. He can either just sit there and shrug and not really care about it and want to talk about anything, or it can be quite interesting and funny and playful. And this was the latter, luckily. He was quite funny with some of this stuff that he talked about. Again, an enjoyable 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever the video was.
nice.
Talking of Pharrell promoting things, he appeared on the Graham Norton show. I was going to say here in the UK. Obviously, I'm not in the UK, but it's a show that I watch still, which was okay. Nothing particularly interesting. But then the following week, he appeared on Jimmy Fallon
Oh my
to
God.
yeah, here we go. To
Should we
perform.
skip this part?
Oh no, we're not
Jesus,
skipping. We talk
man.
about the good and the bad, my friend. He appeared on Jimmy
Okay,
Fallon.
man.
I don't think he did an interview. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think
But he
so.
performed the song piece by piece from the movie. My God, this
Bro,
was bad.
bro. And for our luck, like I think like almost anybody's. I don't think a lot of people saw it, so it didn't became like a meme or something, or became viral. But man, what an embarrassment! Oh, I couldn't see the whole thing.
I forced myself. It was
No, man,
cringe.
I couldn't. Horrible.
We. Yeah, I don't even know where to go with this. They've obviously asked him, yeah, he's doing all the promotion for the movie. They're asking him to do loads of interviews and appear on this and appear on that. And I'm sure Jimmy Fallon, big US TV show, kind of has to do it. So he's gone, okay, well, let's just, I don't know, let's try and have a little bit of fun with it. And I think this is just him just being a bit silly, trying to have some fun.
Yeah, man.
But it just came off just very weird. There's obviously some bits, he's obviously lip syncing the song. He doesn't have a microphone or anything, which again, why
What
even
made it
why
even worse?
why do it if you're not even going to bother to pretend you're singing, firstly?
Yeah.
But then there's some parts of it that are choreographed because he's moving the same as the dancers and doing little dance steps. They've quite clearly chucked him in a room half an hour before this performance and gone, here's what the dancers are doing. Please, can you copy some of this? And he's gone, okay.
Mm.
And he's trying to do it, bless him. It doesn't come off well. And then when he's not
Yeah,
doing the
man.
dance steps, he is just flapping around like a drunk Mick Jagger. Even if you're on stage
Oh
trying to have
man.
some fun, I don't know what comes into your head to make you do that.
I wish he was drunk, man. If he was drunk, it would be better. Like there's no way a drunk person would do that thing. Like, man, it's so bad. So bad. I
I'd have a
couldn't
bit
see
more
the whole
respect for the
thing.
performance if he was drunk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, okay, it makes sense. But like I said, like a friend of mine asked me about it, like, man, what the fuck is this? And I was like, man, I don't know. And I also told you that I think my opinion is like maybe he was trying to make fool of himself on purpose to, I don't know, become a viral moment, I don't know, become a meme, and it doesn't, and it didn't, and well, now we have this. I don't know I don't know, like, I have a question for you now. So, what is the worst thing Pharrell ever did? This performance on Jimmy Fallon, or
Rio,
dude, we're going to
Rio,
Rio?
Rio.
No way, man. No way. Nope. There's no way.
They're
I can
both
see
up there,
that
mate. They're
movie.
both up for that.
I can see that movie, man, again, but I cannot see the performance in it. The performance was horrible, man.
Apologies, I've forgotten, but somebody tagged me in that dude, we're going to Rio the other day on Instagram, and I was like, fuck off. They're like, oh, look, it's Steve's favourite. It's like, oh, no.
Horrible, man. Horrible.
Terrible. And this was just as cringe.
Yeah, man. Jesus. Pharrell did it again.
Yeah. Link in the show notes if you want to endure it for 3.5, 4 minutes. I
Please,
don't,
no, man.
yeah.
Don't do it.
I personally wouldn't. I just avoid it. But
Yeah.
if you want to subject yourself to it, then, yeah, click on the link. But it's a weird one. Anyway, let's move on. Final kind of topic I want to talk about. Piece by piece.
Yes.
Again, we haven't scheduled this podcast on this day on purpose, but today the tickets finally went on sale in Finland for the cinema release, which is the 4th of December. Weirdly, I got tickets straight away. I'll preface this, I have already seen the movie, but I want to go see it in the cinema. So I went and booked tickets straight away today. It is only in the cinemas in Finland for one day.
Jesus.
There are no other dates. And when I looked a minute ago, just before we started this recording, only 3 tickets in the whole of Finland have been bought. I've bought 2 of them. I really, really hope this people it gets promoted a bit and people see this in the next 2 weeks or the next week
Damn,
when the
man.
movie actually comes out. Because at the moment, I have the whole cinema to myself.
Jesus Christ, man. Am I going to have to book a flight ticket to go to Finland just to watch this damn movie on the cinema?
We'll have the cinema to ourselves, mate. Bring Jules. Just the 4 of us can just chill in the whole cinema.
Yeah, man. No, I'm just going to say that I also watched the movie, man. And I think we probably should do an episode just to talk about this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of bits to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. I did have a couple of notes of a couple of key things I just wanted to mention that I noticed.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it yet, if it hasn't released where you are, then yeah, please book a ticket. Please go and see it.
Yeah,
It's currently taken $10 million. That is mainly just from a US release and a few other international places where it has trickled out. I did notice there was one country on the list where it got released. It might have been like Luxembourg or some small country like that, where it took like $260. Yeah, it's made 10 million from a budget of 16 million, and that budget doesn't include the marketing. And there's been a lot of marketing, so
yeah,
you've got to think they've spent 20 odd million on this. They've only made half the money back so far. They're not going to make much else with the international releases because they only seem to be available for one day in some of the countries. I've seen in the US it's already available on streaming services. So if you're in the US and you haven't got to the cinema to see it, you can go and stream it or purchase it on Apple TV and various other places. So, go and do that and help contribute. But it's a shame because, again, we
yeah.
won't get
True,
into
man.
detail now. As a movie, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was well made. It surprised me in parts. It was a good story. I would recommend it to pretty much anybody. A good movie for kids to go and see, a good inspiring story,
It is, man.
a good movie for adults to go see if you're just, if you're into Lego, if you're just into music or any of those kind of components of the movie. I enjoyed it, and like I say, that's why I'm paying to then go and see it in the cinema as well. But yeah, it's a
Yeah, me
shame it
too.
hasn't it's a shame it hasn't done as well as everybody would have hoped.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the way they are promoting is pretty weird, right? Like, okay, Pharrell is everywhere in the United States and also a little bit in here in Europe, trying to promote the movie, but it's not it's not the same way that a Lego movie usually are promoted, right? And I mean, I get it. I understand because Pharrell is not a, I don't know, Pharrell's history is not a, I don't know, it's not everybody that wants to see that. So even when the news came out that Pharrell was making a documentary on his life and doing on as a Lego movie was like pretty shocking for us. Like, oh, well, why and how, and and I think the first thing that came out on my mind was like, oh, it's going to be a success because it's kind of hard to sell to the world. Oh, you're going to see the Pharrell Williams story. If it was like, I don't know, 10 years ago when Happy came out, and that would be probably that movie would be huge. But 10 years later, I don't know. But I agree with you. I also saw the movie. It's a pretty great movie, not just for Pharrell fans, but for Lego fans, for the public in general. Is a pretty, I don't know, family friendly movie. It's amazing. I got emotional a bunch of times, just because it brought me so much nostalgia, and the way they use the Lego to bring the colors for it. It makes a lot of sense. When I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, now it makes sense why Pharrell had this vision to make this his his journey into Lego. It makes sense, and it's amazing, man. And I can't wait to see it again. And I hopefully going to see in the cinema. But there's no cinemas that's here in Spain or in Barcelona that has plans to screen it. It's a shame.
Really? Oh man,
Yeah, man. No.
that sucks.
Yeah, when we were in Amsterdam, we saw that there's two actually like two movie theaters in there was about to screen it, but it's going to be like I think it was in I think it's maybe it's screening right now, not at the time that we were there, so it was a shame.
And just kind of touching on what you said a minute ago about the kind of promotion of it. Again, I think another way this kind of hasn't hit the mark or got to as many people as possible is I just looked at the original Lego movie. In the cast of the original Lego movie, you've got Chris Pratt, Elizabeth Banks, Will Ferrell, Morgan Freeman, Will Arnett, Liam Neeson, Alison Brie, Nick Offerman, Charlie Day, Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill, Kobe Smulders, Shaquille O'Neal, just like
Mm,
star after star after star who can all just go across the world and do all the promotional chat shows and interviews and stuff like that. Whereas with this, it's just Pharrell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some artists like that. I don't know, Jay-Z, Justin Timberlake, Busta Rhymes, Missy. But I mean, there's no comparison to Shaquille O'Neal. Come on.
Yeah, and even like, what I noticed in the movie is that all those kind of big name artists that you've got, they only appear for like a couple of seconds really. It's only just the odd little, there's no like 5-minute interview with any of them where they're talking about things in depth. It's I think with Jay, like he was voiced or on screen, however you want to put it, for I don't know, what, 15 seconds or 20 seconds or something probably.
Exactly. Yeah,
So like
true.
they're not really in there, so they're therefore not gonna be out there promoting it in any way. And again, like even if you
Yeah,
had
true.
Missy or Justin or Pusha or somebody on a chat show talking about it, again, that's not going to pull in anyone else because if you're watching those people on the chat show, you already probably have an interest in Pharrell and you're going to be aware of it anyway. So it's not reaching out to kind of a broader audience. Whereas if you have the original Lego movie, you've got a whole bunch of A-list movie stars. People are going to watch them on a chat show no matter what because they're interested in what they're promoting, what their new project is. They've heard of them in other things, they've seen them in other movies. Whether they like them or not, they're probably still going to just kind of tune in to see what they're talking about. Whereas I think a lot of the time with the likes of Pharrell, there's probably a lot of people that see him on these chat shows and go, "Oh, I don't really know who he is, I don't really know what he does." And he's talking about a Lego movie? Like, nah, you're
Yeah,
okay. And they just switch off and just skip it.
exactly. Exactly. It's a hard sell, man.
Hmm.
It's a hard sell. But it's unfortunate because when you see the results, it's, it's like a shame. Like, oh, I feel like everybody should see this, man. It's pretty incredible.
Definitely. Like I say,
And
yeah,
and maybe I don't know when it hits the streaming platforms, maybe it can be a success then. I don't know because a lot of kids going to be able to see it and they are going to like it because it's a great movie. Not it's just because it's a Pharrell movie. It's just because it's really a real good Lego movie.
I kind of hope so, but it probably won't help it in terms of the financials and stuff because,
Oh
once it
yeah,
goes to a
true.
streaming platform, and again, the contract may be different. I don't know, but generally, kind of speaking, what would happen nowadays with a movie of that size is that, let's say loads of people go and buy it on Apple TV for €15 or they rent it for €5. That 15 or €5 isn't going back to the people that made the Lego movie. Apple, Netflix, Amazon, whoever have already given them a flat fee and said, here's what we're willing to pay to have that movie on our platform. So all that money just goes back to the platform owner, basically. There may be a small percentage that goes back to the kind of production side of the movie and the people involved in it. But normally, I think with a movie that size, it's just a flat fee that gets paid. So,
Yeah, true.
I don't know if that's been taken into account in the financials that I've seen so far with that kind of 10 million that it's made. I think that is just box office stuff. But Apple, Amazon, all these people, they're not going to be paying millions and millions to have this on their platform. Yeah, and a couple of things I noticed in the movie. I just wanted to very briefly mention them here, and as we said, we'll maybe do an episode where we talk about it in more in depth. Just the story itself was a really nice story. There are some artistic liberties taken in terms of the story
Yeah,
to kind of make the story flow properly and kind of make it more cohesive and tie the characters together. So I think if you are a real big fan, you'll probably go there and go, "Well, actually, I don't think that happened that way." And one example is they talk about Missy Elliott going to the same school as Pharrell, and they kind of depict it, them all in school together. Her, Timberland, Pusha, Malice, Pharrell, etc.
hmm,
They all went to different schools. Missy grew up 20 miles away, somewhere else. So there's that. I saw a few people kind of online complain, or not complain, well, yeah, kind of complaining actually, when Chad and Pharrell win the talent competition with Teddy Riley. At the time, in real life, there was also Mike Etheridge, who's part of the Neptunes as well. He doesn't appear in that kind of scene. Now, again, like from a movie making perspective, that's completely understandable. You wouldn't just have a random person there, so people watching it go, well, who's the third guy on the stage that never appears in the rest of the movie? I get if you're, yeah, I think Mike Etheridge has talked about it on Facebook and Instagram and has been kind of okay about it. But I see a lot of people getting very upset on his behalf because they don't understand how movies are made and how stories are built and how they progress and stuff. But I can imagine that's probably quite annoying if you are him and if you are a friend of his and stuff. So I've seen a bit of that chatter online, which was interesting.
Yeah, and I saw that post also, like people were talking about. He also were talking about it, and but all I mean, we don't know the facts. How was everything? Like, how was it eventually? Oh, how was it actually? But one thing that we 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 do know, but we don't know if it is true, is that wasn't Mike that decided to go solo because he was the more talented one. I remember like reading something about that. Like Mike decided to go solo because he was like the talent one, and he even did a solo album, right? But I don't know if he was ever out because I remember like the album that Mike did on I think it was late 90s, like I think it was leaked at some point, but I think that was the story that got out that he decided to get out of the Neptunes.
Let's I'll send him a message at some point. Let's see if we can get him on it because I know he has done other podcasts, so it'd be interesting to hear his story.
Yeah,
So yeah, let's maybe try and sort that out because I'm sure people would be interested.
true.
Two other kind of small things. Pusha features quite heavily in this amongst all of the other characters. Pusha's kind of one of the main ones that kind of crops up quite regularly. No Malice anywhere though.
Yeah,
Even when
that was a strange one.
they show the grinding video, Malice isn't
Yeah,
there. But then Malice was at some of the premieres of the movie itself and has posted about
exactly.
it. So I found that quite strange. I guess a personal decision from Malice to say, I don't want to be
Yeah,
involved for whatever reason. That's his choice.
true.
I would have imagined he would have still signed off to allow them to have a character of his likeness and have him in like the grinding video that they show. But
Yeah,
from what I could see, he wasn't even there at all. So that was a weird one.
yeah, true.
And then one kind of part of the movie I found quite annoying is they're talking about the time in, I want to say around 2005, 2006, that in my mind kind of time, I think. And maybe a little bit before that, in fact. And Pharrell is doing an interview for The Vibe, and Mimi Valdez is interviewing him. And she used to work at The Vibe. She then later went on to manage Pharrell and I think is a co-producer on this movie, and she oversees all the I Am Other projects now, all the movies are involved with and stuff like that. So has worked with Pharrell for a long time. They included part of an interview that they both did in, I guess it's in like a diner or something. So there's a bit of a noisy background and stuff like that. But they used the original tape recording of the interview. Now that interview would have been nearly 20 years ago, maybe exactly 20 years ago, and it was on, I'm assuming, on actual tape, and that tape over 20 years is warped. So when they're playing it in the movie, the voices are really like distorted where the tape is warped and stretched. And it sounds like they're
Yeah,
going in slow motion for a second, then it speeds up, then it's slow. Just really weird to include it. And I get that they're trying to like replicate an authentic interview scene.
yeah,
The man has done thousands of interviews over the years. Pick one that was actually recorded properly and that hasn't sat on a cassette tape for 20 years and warped and sounds like absolute shit. That was a weird one to include. And while I was watching it, it actively annoyed me that it was included just because it sounded so distorted and so weird. And ugh.
yeah. Oh, I didn't mind that part because I thought it was like it adds a little bit of, I don't know, authenticity, you know? Because of course when you do like a Lego movie, nothing feels natural because it's a Lego movie. But that part, like, I kind of like it actually because of that. Because I didn't know that part of the story. I didn't know she was like a reporter. She's like, I didn't know she started to work with him through that interview. So it was kind of cool. But the thing that bothered me a little bit, and I think not just about this movie, but about the all the times that Pharrell had to talk about his first album. Like they didn't bother to talk about it at all. You know, if it always feels strange because it's a huge part of his career, and I get it. We all by now we heard it a bunch of times how much it was like a strange time and for him and the way he feels about the album, but it's always a weird one to even on a documentary that like he like to say is a documentary, like not to at least mention the album, you know?
Yeah, and they kind of alluded to it in the movie, and he's also talked about it in interviews recently. That yeah, he looks back at that time and he just doesn't like himself as a person at that time. You know,
Yeah,
he says, he says in the movie, like, he looks back then and he was arrogant and out of control and just not a nice person to be around or to work with and stuff like that. So I guess that's probably why they glossed over some of that period. I'm sure there were
yeah,
certain aspects, when they went through the script and all that kind of thing and the storyboarding it all. I'm sure Pharrell and his team would have said like, okay, like here are topics we're happy to talk about. Here's topics we really want you to talk about and emphasize. And here's some topics we'd probably like you to like leave out if possible and not really go into.
yeah,
And I'm sure
exactly.
they probably scripted something around that, but I imagine as part of the editing process, they just left it out. And again, I'm sure Pharrell, I know he's kind of talked about how he left Morgan Neville to kind of just go and do it by himself and he trusted him to kind of do it all and everything. But I'm sure Pharrell or Pharrell's team at least would have seen different edit versions of the movie as it was coming together, and I'm sure they would have had some notes and some feedback and said maybe could you tweak that? Could you take that out? I think one thing that
Yeah,
Morgan Neville's talked about in an interview recently is they were going to include stuff around the Blurred Lines court case and then decided to kind of take that out because they just didn't want to sort of
yeah,
focus on sort of negativity and stuff like that, which again is probably why they left out some of that time around
yeah,
2005 to
true. No, it makes
2007.
sense. Yeah, like I said, like it makes sense. Like they leave that out, but not even mention the album. You know, like it's always strange to me. Like you kind of erase your first solo album from because it's basically what he's trying to do, right? He's trying to erase. But since a lot of people love the album to this day, I don't think he's going to be able to totally erase the album from his story. But yeah, it's always strange to me. Like I felt weird.
I don't think it's about erasing it. I think it's more about he doesn't want to publicize it.
Yeah.
He knows because what we have to remember is to us that album kind of means a lot and we like it generally, but to the general wider audience of people that they want to go and watch this movie
Oh yeah, true.
who aren't necessarily Pharrell fans or don't know his life story, they don't necessarily know that album exists. And I think what they're trying to do is just not highlight it in the movie because, like I say, he's already talked about he didn't like himself as a person at that time. He doesn't necessarily feel particularly fondly about the album.
Yeah, true.
So they don't want to highlight it because they don't want people going, oh, there was an album 2006. I'll go look that up. I'll go get that and I'll go listen to it. And
Yeah, yeah,
because it may change their opinion of him. I don't think it really would because there's nothing
yeah, true.
fundamentally
Yeah,
bad about the album, but I
exactly.
think it's just a period he just doesn't want the highlighting.
Yeah, it's not like in comparison, like if you think about like Tyler the Creator's first album, there's nothing like that on his first album, but I get it.
Yeah, it's not controversial in any way. I just don't think, he's happy with it as a project and with him as a person. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
true. No, I get it, I
just
get it.
avoid it. When it's your life story, you can pick and choose what parts you want to talk about anyway.
Yeah, true. I just hope one day. I mean, we have you ever seen some fan-made documentaries on Pharrell on YouTube? There's some cool ones.
I've seen a few,
Yeah.
but there's never really been one that I've liked enough to kind of
Ah, yeah.
share it or promote it. There's always something about it that annoys me. I can tell they're reading from a
Yeah.
Wikipedia page or it's been recorded in their bedroom or I don't know, something weird where I'm just like, doesn't sound great or doesn't include anything particularly interesting. It's just they've just listed out a bunch of things that have happened and they're just reading through them basically.
Yeah, true, true. I hope some good ones came out. I don't know, in one day. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's been a few like non-official ones. I think if you go on like the streaming services, I think years ago I bought one on Apple TV, like an unofficial documentary about his life. And this would have been probably just after Happy and Blurred Lines and Get Lucky and all that sort of stuff when everyone was like, let's cash in because he's really popular now. Let's make something about him. And yeah, I think the one or two little documentaries I bought, they were like really crap. And again, it was clearly people that knew nothing actually about him. They were just making them because he was popular at the time. And
Oh yeah,
again,
true.
they'd obviously just source loads of stuff from Wikipedia or from interviews and articles, and they were just rereading it. And they'd obviously just licensed a load of footage from interviews and recordings and stuff of him, and they just put their narration over the top. And yeah, they're just really, really shit.
Yeah, I get it.
I prefer the Lego version.
Yeah.
All right, we're pretty much at the end. One very quick thing to mention. We're going to end this on some sad news. The greatest. Yeah, we're a Pharrell Neptune's fan podcast. We love them. They're amazing. But the greatest to have ever done it, hands down.
Yeah, man. Hands down.
Nobody even comes near him. Don't care what you say. The legend, Quincy Jones, who unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago now, it would have been.
Yeah.
Really,
Pretty sad, man.
really sad. I was going to say not unexpected. You know, he was what, 91, 92.
Yeah.
I think even the day before he passed away, he posted something on Instagram as well. He, you know, he looks his age, obviously, but he still seems to be up and about and getting around and active. And so a little bit of a surprise, well, also not that it happened. But yeah, man, that upset me. That put me in a bad mood for a few days. People that know me know that before Pharrell, the Neptunes and all that, I am a Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones stan. I grew up with all that music. It's some of the greatest music ever produced. I've been lucky enough to see Quincy Jones live a couple of times in the last sort of number of years, which I'm so, so grateful I got to go and do and see him conduct an orchestra, see him talk about, answer questions and tell anecdotes and talk about his history and all that sort of stuff. So lucky to have been to those events. And a massive loss.
Yeah, man, it is. I remember, I think it was like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, he did an interview and he said something like, "Oh, the technology that we have now and the medicines that we have, like I'm probably going to live until I don't know, 120 years." And I felt so relief. I'm like, "Oh man, so okay, so probably I'm going to die and Chris Jones is still going to be alive."
Quincy's
So
still around,
I was,
still around forever.
yeah, you know. So and I get it. Like every time that we hear that a legend like Quincy or even Michael, when it was his time, like when they passed away, we always get shocked because we feel like those people are so larger than life that they are never going to die. And but in my point of view, after reading that interview, I was like, oh, Quincy probably going to live forever because he has the money, he has the technology, he has the doctors around him. So okay. And when I saw the news, I was like, it's like automatically in my mind like that interview that he said he's going to live more, and I was like, oh man. And I saw Jamie Foxx, like he did like a tribute for him. And he said, "Oh man, I know he's 91, but he going too soon." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I think it's the first time like a 91-year-old man dies, and everybody is going to be like, oh, going too soon." Yeah, man, such a loss.
Definitely.
But I mean, at the same time, he's never going to die, man. He's going to be here forever. His music DNA is all over all the music that we hear today, and forever is going to be something of Quincy Jones, some of his DNA all over it. It's amazing what he did, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. I still absolutely love the fact that I saw him for, I want to say it was his 80th birthday and his 85th birthday, something like that. When I saw him for his 85th birthday, he came out on the stage holding hands with like Naomi Campbell. Dude is just 85 and he's got like Naomi Campbell following him around. Just like that's just a normal day for him, just hanging out with Naomi Campbell. Just like
Mm,
that, what a
mm,
life. And like hearing him, I got to sit there and watch an interview with him in person and just hearing
wow.
his stories and his anecdotes. And, you know, even stuff like, you know, when he was really young and first started touring, you know, he came here to Finland and they ran out of money in Finland. Now, Finland, outside of the main cities, is, let's say, not the most welcoming of places at times to people who don't look like me. So for this to be in, I don't know what, the 50s, the 60s, where it would have been even
Wow.
worse, to come to countries like
Yeah.
this, to travel around in them, to perform with a band of jazz artists that were all just like him as well. It's just amazing. And yeah, the story of him running out of
It
money
is, man.
here, and you know, he eventually ended up making some money and he gave it all away to his band so his band could fly back home to the US and get home, and he just stayed and just kind of hustled to get by and until he could make enough money to get back to
Wow.
America. Just stories like that. He was just like he seemed to just care about everybody around him and put everybody else
Yeah.
first. And I think that's why he's not just from the music perspective, but why he's just so loved by so many people.
True.
I think there's people in the music industry that have been around for years and you hear a lot of negative stories or as many negative stories as you do positive stories about. That's rare with Quincy Jones, I feel.
Yeah. True.
I've read a lot of interviews of people talking about Quincy Jones and watched a lot. And yeah, you know, I'm sure when he wanted to hammer out a deal, he didn't take shit from anybody. But at the same time, just in general, in business, in day to day life, he just seems to
Yeah.
have been
Exactly.
like a top guy that, you know, had everyone else's interests at heart. And yeah, and just one of a very quick anecdote that I really love, and it just epitomizes Quincy Jones and people of that time. Back then, I can't remember what the years would have been. Again, probably in the 50s or something. He was hanging out with the Rat Pack, so Frank Sinatra and those guys.
Yeah.
And he's out in Vegas one night with Frank Sinatra, and they're in a bar and they're drinking. They've been drinking all day, they're drinking all night. And he's just there chilling with Frank Sinatra, like you do when you're that sort of person. And they've had quite a few drinks, and Frank Sinatra goes, "We should go to a different bar. It's getting boring here." And Quincy says, like, yeah, fine, you know, whatever, let's go somewhere else. They're in Vegas at this point. Frank Sinatra wanders off, comes back 5 minutes later, and he's like, "Come on, we'll go. The driver's going to take us." Get in their car, driver takes them to a private airport, get on a private plane. You're Frank Sinatra. Of course, you've got a private plane on call. They get in the plane. Quincy doesn't even ask where they're going, just gets in the plane. We're just going to another bar on a plane. They end up flying for hours or whatever. And then Quincy says, "Where are we actually going?" Frank Sinatra's like, "I fancy going to Paris." So they're just on a random flight to Paris. They touch down in Paris. They carry on drinking, doing whatever they're doing. From that point, Quincy Jones never left Paris for 5 years. He literally got on a flight on a night out with Frank Sinatra and just moved to Paris.
Wow.
He had
That's
nothing with him.
insane, man.
He had absolutely nothing with him. He'd never, I think he'd
Wow.
maybe visited France in the past when he toured, but he'd never properly been there. He just got there and
Man.
loved it so much. And he's just fucking Quincy Jones. He can just go, "I like this. I'm going to stay here." And just never went back to America for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Wow.
Just a crazy life to lead.
Man, who does that, man? Wow. I knew that he lived in France for a very long time, but I didn't know it was like I didn't know that the origin story.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah. I was lucky
Yeah.
enough to hear that from his own mouth. And it was one of many amazing anecdotes.
Yeah, true, true. Like from all the stories that I heard about him, besides that now, like one that always stick out with me was I mean two stories. Like he's talking about how he has like girlfriends in different continents. So oh yeah, baby, I have a girlfriend in Brazil. I have a girlfriend here, two girlfriends here in America, and I have other ones in Europe. And another one was when he went to record with the Beatles, and he was like, "Oh man, they were trash. Like they were not real musicians. Like horrible musicians. Like, what?
There's that story that he gave in an interview recently that's cropped up again recently after he passed away, where he was in the studio with them and he was trying to get Ringo to do a drum piece, and Ringo
Yes,
couldn't do it.
exactly.
And they were like, "Oh, we're going to go for lunch. We're going to go for a break." And he just rang one of his like jazz musician friends and was like, "Can you just come down to the studio quickly?" Musician came in, listened to it once, played it perfectly, and then they all kind of came back and they listened to it and they were like, I can't remember what the end line was for it. I'll have to dig it out and I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just basically just shit on the Beatles and was just saying they weren't very good musicians. And he just had to call in his jazz friends to actually get shit done in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. But just to picture the amazing musicians that he was working with, and to work with the Beatles and say, oh, they were not that good. Like, oh man, imagine the magicians that he was working with.
Yeah, and I imagine I'm just looking up now to see if I can find the quote. The first one that comes up is Quincy Jones in 2018 saying the Beatles are the worst musicians in the world. You have to also
Yeah.
bear in mind there were many legal troubles over the years between the Jackson estates, the Beatles. I'm sure Quincy
Oh
Jones
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
involved in some of that as well. So, he probably wasn't on great terms with them for a certain period of time.
Yeah, true. And I think he was in on that era, 2017, 2018, that he did a bunch of interviews, like he was trashing a lot of people, and then he came out and like, oh, I'm sorry for that. Like I
Yeah.
was taking some medicine and
I'll just read a couple of quotes because
just apologies.
they are hilarious. Because you just remember, the Beatles probably the biggest band that's ever existed, and a lot of people will say the greatest band that's ever existed. But Quincy says they were the worst musicians in the world. They were no playing motherfuckers. Paul, he was the worst bass player I've ever heard. Then it goes to Ringo, and he's like, and Ringo, don't even talk about it. Oh, here we go. Ringo had taken 3 hours for a 4-bar thing he was trying to fix on a song. He couldn't get it. We said, mate, why don't you get some lager and lime, some shepherd's pie, and take an hour and a half and relax a little bit? He's really digging the English stereotype there. In the interim, Jones called English jazz drummer Ronnie Varell to the studio. Ronnie came in for 15 minutes and tore it up. Ringo comes back and says, George, can you play it back for me one more time? So George Martin did. And Ringo goes, oh, that didn't sound so bad. And I said, yeah, motherfucker, that's because it ain't you. just the balls to say that to the Beatles in a studio.
Yeah,
Okay,
man.
fair enough.
Wow, man. Amazing.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Anyway, I think we should wrap
yeah,
it up
man.
there on that happy,
Yeah, man.
hilarious anecdote. That was good.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace to Quincy, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for the music, man.
Quincy Jones forever. All
Yeah.
right. So, yes, everyone, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, you can find us online everywhere at the Otherz podcast. If you're unsure of where to go to the others.net/about. That will give you every link under the sun. You can find me pretty much everywhere at Steve R. Penny or just Steve Penny, depending on the network of choice. Again, the website tells you all of this. And then Rafa, aside from on the website, where can people find you?
Yeah. So people can find me on Instagram. My personal account is Rafito_Zurk. And I have a professional one that I do like sneaker illustrations and sneaker posters. And you can find me at Sneakertel2.
And that's his
That's it.
professional account. So, no shit posting there. It's all about the business.
Exactly. I mean, I post some shit also.
Occasional shit posting. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's wrap it up. That was a good one, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening,
Yeah,
everybody.
man.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Yeah, thanks, man. Bye.